It's time for the Astroneer review for the Nintendo Switch. This was a game I bought for Lizzie for Christmas, and after seeing her play it some, I got a copy for myself. I say this because I don't generally go for sandbox-like games, but the appeal of exploration piqued my interest. So, was it worth it in the end for someone who has similar gaming tastes like me? Let's find out. As you begin, your character lands on a strange planet where you're initially set up with a small base. The point of the game is to expand your base by exploring your surroundings, finding different elements and resources, and bringing them back to your base where your multiple different 3D printers can create various new tools to help you in your quest. The landscapes and explorable areas of each planet are procedurally generated, so one player's experience won't be the exact same as another's. Now, usually in my reviews, I like to discuss certain topic points in a similar order, with the controls somewhere in the middle. However, I must talk about them before going any further. Oh my word, these controls are without a doubt the worst I have ever played on Switch. The game is 100% made for PC, and they are not optimized for console play. If you've seen my Roller Coaster Tycoon or Super Dungeon Maker reviews, those will give you a sense of what it's like, since the majority of control is moving a cursor around the screen, something that's not ideal when using a controller. With Astroneer, however, the difficulty in getting used to it is extreme. It took me 2 to 3 hours just to finally get used to controlling everything. Much of the difficulty was remembering how the controls wanted to work when switching from controlling your character to controlling the cursor, and even both in certain circumstances. You can change the control layout, but nothing I did seemed to help in the long run. Now, once you do get a good feel for the controls, the game is playable, don't get me wrong, but the task of finally getting used to the clunkiness is quite large. Even after hours of playing, I still often had to stop and think for a second on how to perform a specific task. There are tutorial guides on how to do everything, but had the devs revamped the controls for console play, I wouldn't have had to write out this long paragraph conveying my frustration. Thankfully, you can invite someone to your world and have them play co-op with you. This was especially helpful since Lizzie had already mastered the clunkiness and was able to help progress the gameplay much faster than I could have on my own. Unfortunately, because she already had at least 100 more hours of gameplay than I did, I didn't get to experience the game like someone would if they were on their own. Sure, being able to create various base machinery and 3D printed objects quickly helped us get to the next objective faster, but the element of discovery and critical thinking was diminished. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing that this happened, but more of a consequence of playing with someone who has a ton more experience than you. On the flip side though, I'm honestly not sure I would have gotten as far as we did if she hadn't joined me, because I was ready to quit after just a few hours. After she joined in and I calmed down, I was finally able to focus on how the game was meant to be played. The greatest appeal for me was exploring the unknown. I love procedurally generated games, and this element was no exception. In addition to natural resources, you can also find abandoned bases and collect valuable materials or tools that were left behind. The surface isn't the only area to explore, as huge labyrinths of caves await your curiosity. There are many missions to complete, with most being side quests. Every time you complete one, you'll be rewarded with in-game currency, which will allow you to purchase the blueprints for new machinery and objects to help you progress. When you're near your base, you have an infinite supply of oxygen, but venture out just a bit and you'll have to rely on your tank. Tethers of air and power supply are easy to create and are literally your lifesaver. The only issue I had with these is they can't be installed too far apart from each other. You could only take a handful of steps after putting one down before you had to place another. There's no limit to the number of these on the ground, and since they're not difficult to create, there's not much to complain about, but many times I just wanted to go without stopping, but I had to every 5 seconds if I wanted to stay alive. Your character has a terraformer, and this is how you can pretty much go anywhere you like. As long as you have enough power supply, you could keep using it forever. This is especially needed when trying to get out of caves and your entrance isn't an exit. Your backpack can hold various items, but has a limited number of slots. If you want to bring back a large haul, make yourself a tractor or two with platforms to carry the spoils of exploration. Eventually, you'll be able to create the necessary parts to launch yourself into orbit and to other planets and moons. These hold different and more rare elements, and the main quest of the game can be further progressed. I remember landing on this moon, and while Lizzie stayed back building up the base, I just went exploring for a long time, not wanting to return, as finding new areas, materials, and objects was too enticing. The graphics are unique, but too bland in my opinion. I guess they were going for a saturated yet simplistic look, but it made me think I was playing a beta test. The actual objectively negative point, though, was the many instances of frame rate dips and pauses. This especially happened when playing with another player, and it's really unfortunate this was the reality, and a dose of audio glitches didn't help either. The main story of the game is revealed through data logs that you'll find throughout. Unfortunately, I didn't get very far, as my level of interest dropped significantly after about 20 hours of playing. Even though I said the element of exploration is high, it quickly diminished after I got to a certain point. I think the main reason was exploring was the only thing really keeping me going. It's not like there are hostile aliens or elements against you. The only three things to watch out for are a lack of oxygen, gravity, and various plant life that will go into defense mode if you get too close. The game heavily emphasizes exploration and building, and while these aren't negative points, this type of gameplay doesn't keep my interest for very long. Now normally, I like to complete a game before writing a review, but I just couldn't with this one. I wasn't interested in playing it after 20 hours or so, and therefore my analysis of the game objectively might not be the best example of what it has to offer, but remember, this is my experience with it. There's much more you can build and do in the game than what I've shown in this video, just from what I've seen Lizzie play. However, it's just not the type of game I generally enjoy, and couple this with the clunky controls and graphical and audio glitches, and it will take a lot to get me to come back. I can tell you, objectively, that if you like sandbox and/or games that heavily focus on exploration, crafting, and building, I think most certainly you'll enjoy it. It's a game that you can take at your own pace and play it the way you want to. For me, this just isn't that appealing. If there was more of a feeling of despair or a time limit or some type of element that forces you to play in a more survival mode, I think I would have enjoyed it much more. So, if you think you would like this game for what it is and what it has to offer, I say go for it, but as long as it's on PC. Even Lizzie, who enjoys these types of games way more than I do, almost gave up on it the first time she played because of the awful controls. She definitely has more patience than me, as she now highly enjoys it, and even more with the DLC that's available. Still, no matter your preference of game style, you're better off playing this on PC. This game gets a 3 out of 5 with the title of decent.